Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode. And before we get into today's content, I want to invite you guys to follow the channel here on YouTube or on Spotify. And also, I want to invite you as well to here in the comments, share with us things that you would like to hear about, topics, specific topics. And also, I want to invite you to share testimonies, things that God has been doing in your life through the last episodes. So share with us and also follow us on the channel. And today I want to share a little bit about the blind Bartimaeus from Mark chapter 10, verses 46 through 52. And maybe you remember, or maybe you're new here, we've been hitting on different miracles that Jesus performed. So here we're going to talk about the blind Bartimaeus. And we see that in this story, Jesus, he's coming into the city and he's approaching to where Bartimaeus was sitting on the side of the road. And when Bartimaeus, he finds out that Jesus is coming, he begins to cry out in a desperation, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." So imagine this man, he's blind, he's sitting on the roadside, waiting for someone to come by and help him. And he finds out that Jesus, the Messiah, that the one that heals, was coming to his town. And he begins to cry out. I believe that he knew that one touch of Jesus was enough to heal him and completely change his story. And as he begins to cry out, the people around him begin to criticize him, begin to tell him, "Hey, you be quiet." Basically, stop what you're doing. He doesn't care. He's not going to listen to you. Obviously, those are my words, but they begin to criticize him. And as they begin to criticize him, he begins to cry out even louder, even more, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." He wasn't worried about what the people were saying or what the people were thinking. He was worried about his encounter with Jesus. He became desperate for this one touch, for this one encounter with the Messiah. And many times in our lives and in our journey with the Lord, people can come with criticism or against what the Lord has for us, and we need to break off the fear of man. Doesn't matter what people around you can be saying or be thinking. Don't allow that to steal or take you away from a breakthrough or something that God has in your life. So don't stop going after the Lord. Don't stop going after something that God has for you because of difficulty, because of obstacles or challenges. So we see that he keeps crying out. He keeps going. He breaks through the fear of man and he presses in to see and to encounter Jesus. And something that's so amazing in the story, Jesus, he's passing through the city. He wasn't going to meet Bartimaeus. He's on a journey, but because of Bartimaeus' hunger, because of his desperation, because of his cry, Jesus stops. What is the level of your hunger? How hungry, how thirsty, how desperate are you for the Lord to be encountered by Jesus? Does your hunger stop Jesus? Does your hunger call the attention of Jesus? Because Bartimaeus did. So Jesus, he stops. And he now begins to tell the people to call Bartimaeus over to him. And I think it's so amazing that the same people right before then were criticizing Bartimaeus and telling him to be quiet were now the ones that were participating in the miracle that Jesus had for Bartimaeus. They're now getting Bartimaeus and taking him to Jesus. They're taking him to his miracle. So what God wants to do in your life is not only for you. What God wants to do in your life, it goes beyond you. It's bigger than just you. What God wants to do in your life serves as a testimony for those around you as well. So now those same people are taking him over to Jesus. And Jesus looks at Bartimaeus, and obviously He didn't need to ask him this question because Jesus is all powerful. He is sovereign God. He knew exactly what Bartimaeus needed. And it was pretty obvious. It was a blind man that he needed his eyes to be healed. But Jesus asks him, "What do you want me to do?" Jesus is now inviting Bartimaeus into the process of his own healing. And in that moment, Bartimaeus responds to him, "I need to be healed. I need my sight to be recovered." And Jesus instantly, in one moment, heals Bartimaeus and changes his story forever. One touch, one encounter with Jesus is enough to change our lives and to change our stories forever. And Jesus heals him, and the text says that Bartimaeus, he doesn't stop in the miracle itself. He doesn't stop and say, "Okay, Jesus, you responded, you healed me, thank you, on to the next." No, the text says that after Bartimaeus is healed, he begins to follow Jesus along the way. So that Bartimaeus that was sitting on the roadside, maybe in a place of passivity where he was waiting for someone to help him, he was waiting for someone to come along the way, is now walking on the path that Jesus was walking. He was following Jesus. So the miracle and the breakthrough that Jesus brought in his life took him from a place of passivity to now where he is in a place of action, of doing something, of following Jesus. So the things that God does in our lives, the miracles, the breakthroughs, the signs, the wonders, cannot stop there in themselves. They have to take us to a place of action where we are following Jesus. We are walking in the same path as Jesus, where we are allowing him to do things in us and through us. So Bartimaeus, he comes from this place of sitting on the roadside to now following Jesus. What God wants to do in your life doesn't stop in you. It doesn't need to stop in you, but it needs to take us to a place of where we position ourselves to following Jesus, to where we are now even more connected to him, and where we are allowing ourselves to also be instruments where God can use us in the lives of those around us. So what God did in Bartimaeus' life was not only for him, but it served as a testimony for all those around him, even those that were criticizing him. So allow God to use you. Don't stop in the miracle or the breakthrough itself. Allow what God is doing in you to take you, one, closer to him, and two, to a place of action and positioning where you are following the Lord and you are walking on the path and being used through what he is doing in you and being used by him. So today, position yourself. Cry out for the Lord. Be desperate. Be hungry for him. No matter what those around you may be saying, be desperate. Allow your hunger to stop Jesus along his path and allow him to use you through the testimonies and through the breakthroughs that he is doing in your life. So I want you to take a few moments after this podcast and ask the Lord, where have I allowed the fear of the Lord to take me away from what you have for me, God? And once you are working in my life, how can I position myself to now be a walking testimony and to be used by you for those around me? So take a few minutes, pray about that, and begin to take active steps on the journey of the Lord in your lives. God bless you guys.